Something is brewing inside Flowery Branch that no one saw coming, not even the most hardcore Dirty Bird fans. 3 names, 3 potential cuts. One of them, a shocker that could shake up everything we thought we knew about the Falcons' 2025 roster plan. And if you think this is just about making room for rookies, you haven't been paying attention. So brace yourself, because what's happening behind the scenes now could have ripple effects all the way through September. Be sure to hit that like button to stay informed. Let's start with the outside linebacker room, rugged, aggressive, young, and potentially lethal. But someone's gotta go. And that someone might be Arnold Ebiketie, a former second-round pick. Yeah, that Arnold Ebiketie. He came in with sky-high expectations, but heading into his 3rd year, the question isn't whether he'll excel, it's whether he'll make the team. Since the offseason began, Atlanta has brought in 3 new outside linebackers. Leonard Floyd, a veteran with real production, 9.5 sacks in a Super Bowl year with Raheem Morris in L.A., followed by 3 more seasons of 9, 10.5, and 8.5 sacks. He's not a maybe. He's a lock. Then you've got Jalen Walker, drafted this year and already confirmed by Jeff Ulbrich as an outside guy. And let's not forget James Pierce Jr., the edge rusher Atlanta liked so much they traded back into the 1st round to get him. Toss in Bralin Trice, a 3rd-rounder from last year who lost his rookie season to a torn ACL but is back and healthy? You've got 4 names. 4 locks. That's the number of outside linebackers the team carried on the initial 53-man roster just last season. Where does that leave Ebiketie? Hanging by a thread. If they carry 5 at the position, he's still on the bubble. If they stick with 4, he's out. And look, it's not personal. It's production. Ebiketie has him locked down a full-time role. And this team just invested serious capital, both in free agency and the draft, into reshaping the edge group. Now sure, there's a world where Jalen Walker moves to inside linebacker during camp. That would open up a spot, maybe make room for Ebiketie. But unless that happens, the writing might already be on the wall. The Falcons might feel like they've seen enough, and it's time to give those reps to someone with more upside or untapped potential. Now before we move on, here's a question I want you thinking about while you watch. Between Floyd, Walker, and Pierce, who do you think leads this team in sacks in 2025? Drop your answer in the comments because this pass rush group might be one of the most intriguing in the league this year. But we're not done. Not even close. Next up, a name that fans might not be as emotional about, but it's still a big deal, cornerback D. Alford. Remember, Atlanta didn't even put a tender on him when free agency began. They let him hit the market. Only after some time passed did they re-sign him. And now, even though he started at nickel last year, he's fighting to keep his job, because the nickel spot just got crowded. Clark Phillips, 2nd-year player, is a real contender for the starting job. Billy Bowman, 4th-round rookie, is converting from safety but brings range and instincts. And then there's Kobe Bryant, but the undrafted free agent out of Kansas. This guy has Big 12 accolades, and the Falcons considered him one of the top UDFAs in the entire 2025 class. Let's be honest, if you're re-signing your former starter late in free agency, then spending 2 of your rookie spots on nickel options, that says something about how confident you really are in that starter. Alford could be out not because he's terrible, but because Atlanta might just want to turn the page. Develop the younger guys. Build around longer-term options. And if camp shows them that Bryant or Bowman can hold their own, it might be the end of the line for D. All right, take a breath, because the next name is going to send shockwaves through the fan base. Kirk Cousins, the veteran quarterback the Falcons paid a $10 million roster bonus to back in March. The same guy who was, by all reports, their backup quarterback. Until he wasn't. Something's changed. The tone has shifted. Initially, the message was, Kirk's our backup. Then it turned into, well, if the right deal comes along, and that change in tone? It's not just words. It's a signal. Cousins even had to sit down with Arthur Blank to talk about playing elsewhere. That's not the kind of meeting a backup has if he's cool holding a clipboard. And here's the problem, there's no obvious trade partner. Pittsburgh might sign Aaron Rodgers. Other QB spots are filling up. So if the market dries up, Atlanta has a decision to make. Do you keep a veteran who doesn't want to be a backup? Do you pay him to sit on the bench, or worse, sit at home? They've got 4 options. 1. Keep him, hope he buys in, and plays the mentor role to Michael Penix Jr. 2. Wait for a training camp injury elsewhere, then deal him fast. 3. Pay him to stay away and hope someone needs him mid-season. 4. Cut ties. Rip off the bandage. Admit it didn't work out and move on. We've seen teams do it before. Texans with Deshaun Watson. Not the same exact situation, but similar principles. If Cousins doesn't want to be there, and it sure seems like he doesn't, how long before the Falcons say enough? Look, Falcons fans, this is uncharted territory. You don't accidentally end up with a $10 million backup QB and then flirt with the idea of trading or releasing him unless something goes completely off script. And make no mistake, something did go off script. Cousins didn't sign here thinking he'd be behind a rookie. And yet, here we are. The front office and coaching staff are walking a tightrope. On one side, keep Cousins, bank on his veteran leadership, and trust him to help Michael Penix Jr. prepare for Sundays. That's what you hope. But if the mood in these quarterback meetings changes, if Kirk starts focusing more on his own reps than supporting Penix, you've got a problem. A tension that can poison a young locker room in a hurry. Now, Cousins hasn't made a scene. He's shown up to voluntary workouts, he said all the right things in public. But that private meeting with Arthur Blank? That's the revelation. This isn't about lunch, this is about finding a way out. What if Cousins made it clear that he wasn't interested in a backup role? The team might be willing to cut the subject rather than drag it out into the season. But here's the twist. If no one is willing to trade him, and the Falcons don't want to carry this tension into training camp, can we really see them cut a guy they paid $10 million to in March? It sounds crazy. But so did the Texans, keeping Deshaun Watson inactive for an entire season. When a quarterback doesn't want to be there, or worse, isn't mentally there, the team has to act. And let's be honest. Michael Penix Jr. is the guy. The team isn't protecting itself anymore. This isn't a field battle. Penix is getting first-team reps, this is his team. Which makes Cousins' presence all the more uncomfortable. Atlanta doesn't want a divided locker room. They don't want Kirk watch headlines every week. And they certainly don't want a veteran quarterback quietly simmering on the bench if he thinks he deserves to start. That's why this is a real situation. If Cousins doesn't fully embrace being a mentor, the Falcons could decide to rip off the Band-Aid and move on, trade or not. This isn't about punishing a player. This is about protecting the locker room, protecting the rookie quarterback and moving forward with clarity. But now let's take a deeper look. Those 3 names, Ebiketie, Alford, Cousins, all represent something bigger happening in Atlanta. This team isn't stuck in the past. They're not shying away from making tough decisions. They're leaning into the future. A new coaching staff, a revamped roster, and a front office finally acting with urgency. As training camp approaches, keep an eye on these 3 positions. The outside linebacker spot, the nickel cornerback rotation, and the quarterback depth chart. A major change at any of these positions could set off a chain reaction that shapes the entire 2025 season. Which cut candidate shocks you the most? Which one do you hope the team keeps? Let us know in the comments. Go Falcons!